Okay, greetings and welcome to the first webcast in MSDynamicsWorld.com's BI and Reporting series. Welcome everyone. My name is Jason Gumpert from MSDynamicsWorld.com, and I am very happy to have you all here with us today for this event. This is the first in our series, and I invite you to check out the events link in the upper right at MSDynamicsWorld.com later to see all the upcoming sessions that we have coming up in the next few weeks and months. But today, I am happy to be joined by Tom Totten, BI Solutions Manager and Strategist at Microsoft Dynamics partner Columbus, and he is here to discuss the top 5 considerations before starting your BI project. We invite you to add your feedback and ask questions, and there are a couple ways to do this. First, you can use the Q&A tab that you see in the webcast session itself, and there have been a few bits of information there already. But second, feel free to tweet your thoughts and tweet your questions. You can use the hashtag MSDWBI if you'd like to do it that way, and we'll try to keep the conversation going there as well. Be sure to leave some time at the end. We will be sure to leave some time for your questions, for time to answer them. And when we're done, we also ask if you'll see a survey that pops up at the end, and we would love to get just your quick feedback on the 3 or 4 questions that are there to see how we're doing. So, without further delay, please allow me to welcome Tom Totten.
Thank you, Jason, and welcome everybody. Good morning. Thank you for joining me today so that I can try to share and enlighten you on some of the things that I've learned over the years about BI. Let me first tell you a little bit about myself. I was with an ISV for about 3.5 years, and back in May of last year, myself and 2 other colleagues went to work for Columbus IT to start the BI practice for them. Their customers had started to ask more and more about business intelligence, and it made sense for us to create a department in order to handle that for our customers. We were Columbus IT up until October 31st of this year. And what happened was we rebranded our company from Columbus IT to Columbus because research with clients indicated that the IT and Columbus IT erroneously placed the company in the IT infrastructure category and not in the solution consultancy category in which the company has built its reputation. So we are here to help customers determine what they need for their businesses. We invest heavily in developing standard solutions for the retail, distribution, and food processing and manufacturing markets. And the BI portion of those verticals is what our team is working on producing. We work on producing those standard applications for your business. And we work on creating those standard applications to work with your Dynamics ERP system and CRM. So what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about today is what we call, or what I call, the five considerations before starting your BI project. I'm assuming that you're on this call because you want to learn a little bit more about what you should do before getting involved in a BI project, or maybe you've had a project that didn't go as well as you wanted it to. And I think the first thing that we want to talk about is going to be understanding what business intelligence is. And I don't think that there's actually one definition of business intelligence. I believe that there are a lot of things that go into it, but there are certain foundations and aspects of BI that you should have a good understanding of before getting involved in a project, I believe. I think another thing that's important is knowing your users. There are a lot of different users in your organization, and you want to get an idea of what those users are capable of. You also want to look at your current reporting methods and practices because you want to build on them. You don't necessarily want to scrap everything you've spent years developing. And also understand that this is not just an IT project. It involves other departments. And then what business areas should you include in your BI project? And then I also have maybe a bonus at the end. So let's start by talking a little bit about understanding what BI is. Now, I think that when most organizations start to look at BI, it's mainly because reporting has become cumbersome, and it has become difficult to get information out of the system. There are a few different reasons, but it's generally surrounding reporting, and then they want to have a little bit more information so they can analyze their businesses. And OLAP, I think, is probably the standard basis for being able to access data quickly. Here's a definition by the OLAP Council. And really, you're trying to take your data and access it so that you can, I guess the old term, slice and dice the data in a lot of different ways. You want to be able to get to that data more quickly and easily so that you can, you're not waiting around for your reports to show up. When you're looking at BI, you've got to kind of look at what departments are currently using for reports, how are they analyzing their data, and how can we use OLAP to kind of enhance the efficiency of those different departments. So with OLAP, we want to get the right information in the right place at the right time. And why do we want to do that? Well, we need to get a better overview of all of the data that's in our systems. You're in a competitive market. There's rapid change. You need to make decisions quickly and on the basis of reliable facts and figures. But what if that information is incomplete or it's just not available? What happens if your executives or your knowledge workers are just stranded and they can't obtain the answers to the pressing questions on your customers, your products, profitability, and potential new sources of revenue? The information you need is, it's somewhere within your organization, but it's oftentimes locked away in different applications and it's hard to get to. And when you do get a hold of the statistics that you're looking for, it's often not in the form that you require, and maybe there's very little scope to explore that information in more detail so that you can identify the cause of certain surges in costs or the reasons for unexpected popularity of a particular product or a particular region. Now, the recognized technical concept for meeting this challenge is OLAP, which is Online Analytical Processing. And OLAP is a separate environment with a dedicated database drawing on diverse data sources and designed to support queries and analysis. I hope that makes some kind of sense. The first wave of data warehouses encountered all kinds of difficulties, including technical integration and a lot of labor, lengthy implementations, high costs, and they just didn't really work. So in an OLAP data model, information is conceptually viewed as cubes. I'm sure you've heard of cubes before, most of you, which consist of descriptive categories that we generally call dimensions and quantitative values that we generally call measures. So the multidimensional data model makes it simple for users to formulate complex queries, arrange data on a report, switch from summary to detailed data, and filter or slice the data into meaningful subsets. For example, typical dimensions in a cube containing sales information would include time, geography, product, channel, organization, and scenario, which could be budget or actual. And typical measures would include dollar sales, unit sales, inventory, headcount, income, and expenses. Within each dimension of an OLAP data model, data can be organized into a hierarchy that represents levels of detail on the data. For example, within the time dimension, you may have levels of years, months, days. Sometimes you go down to the minute or the hour. And similarly, within the geography dimension, you may have the levels of country, region, state, province, city. A particular instance of the OLAP data model would have the specific values for each level in that hierarchy. A user viewing OLAP data will move up or down between the levels to see more or less detailed information. And depending on the tool you're using to look at that information will determine how it's displayed to you. Now, when it comes to bringing this all together, it's important to understand what data sources you're dealing with in your company. Obviously, Microsoft ERP systems are the primary reason we're doing this webinar today. But keep in mind that there's other systems that you may or may not have that you currently report off of. And when you look at the architecture behind the scenes, and I do believe that even end users need to have a general understanding of where this data is coming from, because when you ask your IT department to get more data, it's good to know where it might be coming from and whether or not it's possible in your current environment. So this is just kind of a simple model of looking at your current data sources. So you would have an ERP system over here, maybe a legacy system over here, possibly point of sale, maybe your manufacturing process is done differently or outside of your ERP. Whatever it might be, generally those are operational databases in nature. And when it comes to building this BI platform, this foundation, the way we typically do this with our customers is we create a data warehouse that's designed for business intelligence. It's designed for reporting and analysis. We extract the data from those operational databases. We create data mart for cubes, those OLAP databases, those OLAP cubes. And sometimes there's a couple of different theories here. Some people believe that you should have one cube with all of your data in it so that you can analyze your entire organization in one place. And then there's another school of thought that says you should separate your cubes into different business areas so that it's a little bit more easy to control security or whatever, certain instances you might want to have them separated. And, that's something that you have to decide. And it's generally what we typically do in our installations is separate those business areas, but we certainly do have customers where we generate one cube with everything in it. And there's some advantages and disadvantages to both, I believe. Once you've got this foundation and your cubes are designed and you know that you have data readily available to analyze and report off of, then of course you need some type of tool to look at that information. You need something for your reports, you need something to analyze, something to do ad hoc queries, data mining and dashboards, scorecards, and those would be the front-end tools. And you would need to go through and decide what do I already own, what can I use that I have, and then what are the limitations of those products and what would I need to do to enhance those things. Also, we want to make sure that we know our users. What kind of users are going to be using your system? Do you have a lot of analysts in your company? People that are going to dig into the data and create calculations, and generally their job function is to analyze your business. Do you have those in your organization? And if you do, the tool you decide to use could be different than if you didn't have those types of individuals in your company. Interactors, I think I made that term up actually. It's basically it's people that are going to interact with the report, but not necessarily be an analyst. In other words, they're still going to slice and dice the data, but it's still at a very small level. Then you have viewers of data, so people that are going to look at dashboards and generally just get KPIs, move on with their day. And consumers, I would place in the category of those that look at more printable type reports, those that are just going to see that information in that type of format. And then, of course, you have internal and external users. So your internal users, your employees, and external users, you may want to be able to provide information to vendors or customers on the outside world. And you need to decide if that's something important to you. And then, of course, do you have tech-savvy users or do you have old-school users? You know, if you're working in an environment where your user is highly advanced, and the tool that you choose could be different than if you have a staff that struggles with computers in general, just to keep in mind. Current reporting. This is a good place to start when you're scoping out your project, determining what kind of needs you have for your BI projects. How many different applications create reports? You know, it's funny because oftentimes we go into a BI project and we focus on the Microsoft ERP as our primary database that we're going to extract data from. And the terminology used in the ERP system can be very much different from other sources that you're grabbing data from. And oftentimes we run into situations where you have a customer defined in one system and it's defined differently in another system, and the third system is something else, and the fourth system is something else. And what happens is you end up with reports that all say customer, and they're all different things. And I think that by looking at the number of applications that you're using to create your reports currently can help you define what your information, what your data actually is. Are those applications currently efficient? So if you're going to start a BI project on your Microsoft ERP platform and you have other systems involved, is it important to bring those systems into your BI application at the first phase, or is it something that can go into a later phase? How many people are creating the reports is also important, because you're going to need to know how many users you're going to need for your BI project. How many hours are those users using in a week or a month to create those reports, and how much more efficient would they be with a BI application? And are there business processes in place to create new reports, or is it just send an email to the IT department and hope that they get it done in 3 weeks? If that's the case, you want to try to narrow those processes down and involve them in the new purchase of your BI platform. What is that current lead time? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 2 days? Is it 3 weeks? Are your reports currently graphical, or are they just numbers? Very often we go into a new project and the only thing that we see in current reports are spreadsheets and numbers on pages. And the graphics are very important in a BI solution because it allows you to see things quickly without having to look at the numbers. Red is bad, green is good. I know it sounds very simple, but having those graphical images in front of you allows you to make decisions more quickly, more efficiently, and keeps you competitive. And are your reports currently intuitive? Do they make sense, or are they just providing information? BI should be able to create some intuitive applications so that when you do look at certain things on those reports, dashboards, or scorecards, you have the ability to drill down, drill into them, and infer what might happen in the future. I think we touched on this, the definitions of your data. Is it consistent throughout your company? This is really important. It seems very simple, but what happens here is that when these things are not defined up front, and then you get involved in an implementation, you have a lot of change orders, you have a lot of work orders, you have a lot of things that are just what one department thinks is one thing is different from another department, and it causes reports to have to be recreated and redone, and that costs money and time. And I do believe that spending a good amount of time up front before you get into a project to define what customer really is and what type of customer it is, what are your products, I've seen reports where you'll use the term item number for product, item code, product code, UPC, and this is all in the same organization. So 4 or 5 different definitions for your product on your reports can cause confusion when those reports are designed and when you're building that data warehouse or those cubes. Locations, descriptions, values, all of those things, what kind of calculations do you use? Make sure that the definition of your BI platform for net sales means the same thing to you as the application. Make sure that those calculations are correct. All of these things can seem very rudimentary at first, but they can save you a lot of money in the end. So now you're getting ready to design your new BI platform. What reports need to be static? What reports need to be printable? What reports need to be interactive? So if it's something that you're still using paper, which reports are okay with paper? Which reports need to have more interaction? Which ones need to have the ability to place parameters on them? Criteria, filters, that type of thing. What reports should have graphs and charts and maps? And sometimes you need to consult with someone to figure that out. Which reports should be spreadsheets? As much as we sometimes try to either to get away from Excel, Excel is an important part of most businesses. So embrace it and use it for what it's there for. If you don't have dashboards now, how do you want them to look and what information do you want to have in them? A dashboard originally was designed just like it says when you're driving a car or you're flying a plane. You want to be able to look down at your instruments, get an instant view of the situation, notice problems or concerns, and move on with the vision of your company. Sometimes we think that a BI project is an IT project only, and it's not. There's always, I shouldn't say always, but there's sometimes we think that IT should handle it because it's software. And the other departments should be involved in the decision phase from the very beginning all the way through to the end, because those are going to be your users. And you want to understand what they need and what would be best for them as well. You want to recognize which departments will be involved and collaborate. Collaboration is going to increase the efficiencies by showing, being able to see what other people are doing in different departments. When you see a dashboard or a report from another department and you look at it and say, hey, I would like something like that, that can increase your efficiencies down the road. And spend a lot of time planning this up front. Start with the end in mind. Look at what you want to see at the end of the day, and then build your project backwards. Who needs the information? Sales is a great place to start a BI project. Sales looks great in BI. You're looking at trends, salespeople, categories, customers, items. It's a great place to get BI off the ground. But it's not the only place for BI. Manufacturing, inventory, all of those things, GL, finance, everything is part of it. But sales is just a good place to get started with a BI project. And of course, there's different ways to design the project. Think about each department and what information they might need. So what did I miss so far? Well, how do we get started on something like this? And generally, our customers do not actually write formal requests for proposal when it comes to just BI. A lot of times it's thought of as a laborious task, and it's difficult and unnecessary at times. But we have some templates available that we can help you create a request for proposal so that you can actually do all of these things that we're talking about here and be able to present this to different vendors that will meet your qualifications. And it also is a formality of taking you through the process of deciding what it is that you want in your BI project. So what I suggest then is, if you do want some help with this, first you need to assign someone that's responsible to write the RFP. Some other things that are important that we haven't gone over is you want to have a schedule of events. If you're looking at doing a BI project, sit down and figure out, when do I want this project decided on? When do I want it finished? When do I want to be using my BI platform? And then figure out what your budget is going to be for the project before you get started. So if you want some assistance with writing the RFP, I would be happy to do that for you. Just contact me here, send an email, and I can talk to you for a short amount of time. We can set up a phone call, whatever it takes, to just help you kind of go through the process of deciding what you'd like to have in your BI project. And then you can decide from there what solutions would fit for your company. So at this point, I guess we're going to open up for some questions and see if we've got anything out there right now.
All right.
Jason, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. So yeah, thanks again for sharing your insight on this and all the experience that you come across in the field on a daily basis. I would like to open up the floor for questions here. Again, there's a couple main ways you can ask questions. You should see your Q&A tab, Q&A field that you can just type your questions into, and we'll have Tom answer as many as you can. Also, feel free to tweet your questions or your thoughts. The hashtag again is MSDWBI, and we'll be keeping an eye on that for the next few minutes as well. So we do have a question in here. Tom, are you able to see the questions yourself?
Yeah, I think the first one that I see from Denny Connor says, how do you plan for performance reports, especially smaller to mid-sized companies that can't buy a separate server for OLAP, but their current SQL server can't handle SSRS, for example? Well, Denny, I would say that there's probably some things that I would need to know to answer this more specifically, but in general, you might start off by creating the ability to report off of your current database through, if you can't handle SSRS, then I would say if you don't have any other reporting tools, then it's potentially an Excel-based solution at that point, where you would need to make a connection to a data source that's created on the same server and report in that way. And without getting into specifics of how we would do that, it is possible to do what you're asking. So I'd probably want to ask you a few more questions specifically. So please send me an email and I'll figure out your solution. But it's not that it's not possible. You can still get reports. You can still get performance reports. You just wouldn't necessarily do it with a data warehouse in this instance. Next question is, it says, it is better to do data marts to start. Oh, I think it's, is it better to do data marts to start and then consolidate to a data warehouse, or the other way around? Well, actually, the way we create our solutions, whether it's one data mart or several different data cubes, is that you need a staging area anyway, so that you can extract the data from your operational database, transform it into a format that's usable for your users and for your cubes, load it into the cubes, and report from there. So it's, I don't see where you would do you would create a cube before you created your data warehouse. It goes together. Let's see. How can I see?
Yeah, we're not. We're not.
What do we got?
Yeah, we're. Let's see here. So I was just communicating with Denny there that he can type in more information. Well, here's one from Robert Sawyer. Was this the same?
Okay. Let's see. In your example, a data mart would be the analysis cubes, and the various cubes in the Microsoft BI stack are considered various data marts. Yeah, you know,
more of a terminology question there. Are cubes the same as a collection of data? Or a collection of cubes the same as?
Yeah, basically, in my example, what I'm talking about is there's a staging database for BI and analysis, and then there's cubes. That's the way we typically put together a solution. Data mart can sometimes be a separate staging area before the cubes are built, but generally we don't do it that way. We just do one data warehouse with cubes attached to that. How are we going to set BI in cloud implementation?
That's a big question.
You know, the cloud has become more and more popular, and some of the tools that we work with have cloud capabilities, but we still generally implement an on-premise data warehouse and cube structure. And the reason that we generally do it that way is because of the transfer of data from your ERP to the data warehouse. If your ERP was in the cloud, then we would probably suggest that your data warehouse be in the same cloud, if that makes sense. And it's mainly just a transfer issue. We don't currently support any cloud-based solutions where the ERP system is outside of it. I hope that helps answer that. But we do have some tools that give you the ability to put some things in the cloud and analyze off of it. The other thing, too, is that your users can still access your BI solution through a browser, so they don't have to be on-premise to use the BI solution. Next question. I'm not. It says how to justify select BI provider do the job perfectly over GP, and if further adds, will they give some technical training? I'm not quite sure I understand that question, so I'm going to move to the next one. This one's about particular products, and I'm not going to actually talk about specific products today, other than that are things that are connected to Microsoft ERP solutions. And let's see what the next question is. It says, once the data warehouse is established, dimension and fact tables, what are the first considerations for creating cubes from those tables? Are there any gotchas to watch out for? Well, you know, generally our experience has been where we're going to implement something that is templated, for a lack of a better term. We're going to use a solution that's already somewhat complete and already connects to a Microsoft ERP solution. So, which is what we're talking about here. So, when it comes to the gotchas, generally we've taken those things into consideration in our standard solutions. Nothing comes to mind right now other than the fact that if you do have a specific need, you have a specific measure or dimension, just make sure that you know where you're grabbing that information from. I mean, it's happened to us often recently where we'll be requested to grab a particular measure from the ERP solution, and we're told, go get it from this table, and then to find out later on down the road that it actually wasn't there. And when you're doing new implementations, sometimes the reason that you weren't sure where the data was is because you're dealing with test data and sample data and so forth in a new implementation. So that's one of the gotchas, I guess, is just double check on where that data is coming from. When you already have an established database, it's not an issue because you can tell where the data is coming from. So that's one thing that I've run into a few times lately. Can we set an in-house data warehouse for Cloud BI? I kind of think the answer to that question is that's what we actually do. You create your data warehouse on-premise and allow your users to access the data through a browser. And then referencing the cloud, would you consider remoting into a terminal server, a cloud-based solution, or merely an access point? Again, if your data warehouse, if your BI solution is in the same place as your ERP, there's multiple different ways to access the data. We've done them all. All right, I have a specific CRM question that I'm not 100% sure how to answer, so I'll have to get back to that one. How do you select the correct BI tool? That's where, that I think is what this is all about, is how do I select the correct tool? And I think by going through your organization and answering all of these questions about your organization, creating the RFP so that it's a formal process that you have to do internally that makes you ask yourself questions that you wouldn't have thought of before. Like I said, I've got some templates. I can help you with that so that we can, you can get a good analysis of your current situation. And then what happens is you figure out which tools are going to fit the majority of those needs that you have inside of your own organization. What is my opinion on Microsoft's BI stack, SSRS, SSIS, and SSAS? My opinion is it's great. That's what we use. We don't use anything else. We've built standard solutions on that stack. We've used third-party solutions that leverage that stack. It's basically what we know, what we use, what we recommend. So the answer is yes. Our opinion is high of it, for sure. Trying to get to the next one.
You see the question on SharePoint BI?
Yeah, it's kind of product specific, but I would say that it says our institution is using Dynamics CRM. What are the benefits to integrate SharePoint for BI solutions? SharePoint has a ton of benefits with BI and without BI. So it's a collaboration tool. It does a lot of things, and I think it's underutilized in most cases. The benefits of SharePoint, all right, if you already own SharePoint Enterprise version and you have all of the BI tools available to you, well, then of course it makes sense to try to utilize those tools. You already own them. If you don't already own SharePoint Enterprise with all the BI tools that go along with it, then I think you should go through the process of analyzing your situation and determine, is that the right tool for your company, because it's there's a cost involved in that product. So you want to make sure that you make the right decision there. I hope that helps answer that question. If you already own it, use it. What is the average time frame for BI implementation? I don't even know if there's a real answer to that. I was with a customer yesterday, and they're looking at doing a data warehouse, cubes, and then utilizing their current software for visualization. And we estimated that it would take about 3 weeks, three billable weeks, not be done in 3 weeks. So the time frame that it will take to actually complete the project could be a couple of months. I don't know that that's an average solution. For us, that's probably an average solution, 2-3 months. But billable is not quite that high.
Tom, if I could just jump in for one second.
Yeah, go ahead.
There have been a few questions. There have been a few questions about recordings. We are recording the session live right now for those of you who are on live, and we will be providing information about that after we conclude. So stay tuned for that. Tom, back to you.
Okay. So someone's asking about cost, and that's really difficult to do on a webinar. It says, for a small organization, what sort of ballpark figures would you give for a physical infrastructure for a small-scale BI OLAP solution? How many servers, databases, et cetera? In a lot of our solutions, we don't require monster servers. There's really nothing, standard about about this. I would request that you send me an email and give me a little bit more information, and I'll come up with a ballpark number for you. I can definitely do that if I could get a little bit more personal information about your business, but I'd hate to just throw numbers around on a wide scale with all of these people on this webinar and give the wrong impression. Next one is, do third-party ETL tools provide added functionality? Can some functionality be accomplished by well-written SSIS packages? Yes and yes. Third-party ETL tools provide, in some instances, a different way of creating a different format or a different user interface. Therefore, you can possibly have your internal IT folks being able to manage and maintain and implement the solution on their own. And then I think that the functionality of SSIS is excellent. So it's a matter of learning the tool, and possibly even just as simple as flavor, vanilla versus chocolate. Which tool do I like better, and does it work for me better than the other? Generally, the third-party ETL tools do leverage the tools that are available through Microsoft SQL Server, but they generally don't use the SSIS packages when they do that. So, next one. Yeah, I'm going to skip the SharePoint one for now and ask that we answer that offline. All right, hold on. I don't know if this is a general answer or not. What I was asking was more, how do you evaluate performance cutoffs? If you have this number of reports or this many transactions per month, you should get a separate reporting server with these particular configurations. ERP has these guidelines. And
this is tied back to if you can't buy a separate server for OLAP, but their current and the current SQL Server can't handle SSRS, for example. That's what this is a follow-up to, right, Tom?
Yep. Yeah. Again, it comes down to what are you actually working with, and is there something we can do to leverage it without buying something new? We can run these solutions in virtual environments. I don't know if that's an option, but you're saying, how do you evaluate performance cutoffs? That's a personal preference. I mean, I have customers that'll run a report before they leave, and at night come back in the morning, and if it took 12 hours, they don't care. And then I have other customers that if it takes 3 minutes to get their report done, they're yelling. They want it to be done in 3 seconds. So I kind of think that's more of a personal preference. What are you using it for? And what is the report doing for you? Are you looking at orders from this morning, and you need to know if shipments need to get out by 3 o'clock, but it takes 6 hours to run the report, so it totally doesn't work? I mean, that would be a problem we'd have to fix. And I mean, I think there's a few things that you have to take into consideration, but I would be happy to talk with you individually and kind of understand what your server is, what it's doing, what kind of performance issues you're running into, and see if we can't come up with a simple solution. Obviously, you're trying to increase performance without having to buy another server, so there are things that can be done. We'd have to look at it. I hope that helps. Okay, so if you are on a Microsoft ERP solution, example, NAV, GP, AX, etc., does it still make sense to create a data warehouse outside of the ERP and report off of it, or does it make more sense to use the built-in report writer from a BI standpoint? Okay, if everything you do is inside your ERP, you have 0 outside data sources, and your server is powerful enough to handle the incoming transactions as well as your reporting needs, then sure. I mean, use what you have. I don't see anything wrong with that. But as soon as you have an outside data source or your performance starts to suffer, then my opinion is you need to get outside of the ERP, have a separate server, you have a dedicated reporting tool, and that's where you move forward from there. So, if you don't need outside data and your performance is okay, and also you're happy with the tools that are available inside your ERP, then sure, leave it that way. What is the data security on BI tools? Generally, it's going to be linked to your Windows security. Analysis services is going to be able to link to your Windows security so that you can restrict users to the cube and the dimensions and measures. And then if you were to look at outside tools, you also have security levels there. Reporting services has security levels, so that's usually handled through Windows security. Okay, so
that appears to be all the questions.
The end here.
Yeah, we can maybe hold on for one more if it comes in, but otherwise.
Got another minute or two? Yeah. I hope that you guys have gotten. Huh?
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I hope that you've got some good information today. I know that some of it might be new and some of it you may have heard before, but I hope that you got some good information today, got some good questions answered, and create dialogue so that we can move forward in helping people decide what their BI solution should be. And again, like I said, my email's up there. Send me an email. Let me know if I can help you in any way. And if you want help writing an RFP, just have general questions. I'll be happy to answer for you.
All right. Thanks so much for your time today, Tom. And remember, we are recording, so you will get an update on that. Thanks to everyone in the audience for showing up. Remember, look out for more BI series sessions coming up in the coming weeks and months, as well as a series on document management, EDI, and some other good stuff. So thanks again for attending, and have a great day.
Thanks.